Hi, Mike.
Well, you're playing at the Chevalier Theater in Medford on August 25th. That's a great room. And and I've been practicing this for a week, the Apostrophe tour. Oh, good. I got that right. And you're celebrating 50 years of your father's albums, Apostrophe and Roxy and Elsewhere. I'm curious because you need like the greatest musicians to play with you and to play your father's music. Who do you have in your band this time around?
Well, it is a different band. I have some of the same people that were in the band from the last tour back in 2020, but we have two new people. And it's actually a smaller band, but makes a bigger sound. So the two new people are of interest because they're younger than the rest of the folks in the band. And that's part of the goal that set me off on this journey anyway, which was to play my dad's music to a younger generation of fans and have them be able to have this music relate to their lives as current music. Because if you've never heard any of the music, it's all new music. Even if it's 50 years old, it's still going to be new music. And in the case of my dad's music, it's still so far ahead of its time. And that's what's really fun about this particular tour, because we're playing songs from 50 years ago, but some of the versions that we're playing from these popular records actually predate the recording of the album themselves. So the records were done in 74, but some of the arrangements that we're playing are when my dad had just written the material to make those records and was already performing them live in 1973. So we have some interesting twists and turns on the material from both of those records. And the main new guy, Zach Tabori, he plays guitar, but he also plays drums. So in the show, we have double drums for at least half the show. And one of the songs that he really wanted to play is Punky's Whips, which is a crazy song about the drummer that used to be in my dad's band, Terry Bozzio, fell in love with a publicity photo of the guitarist from Angel, a guy named Punky Meadows, but he thought it was a woman. And my dad wrote a MIDI opera about this mistaken love interest. And so this song is, it's so much fun to play, but it's a very complicated song. And, you know, all this to say that Zach Tabori, who wanted to play that song, that was the very first song that he ever heard of my dad's music, but he heard my band play it watching YouTube as a 13-year-old. And now at 28 years later, he's in the band playing that song. And the reason is because he watched that YouTube video. So here is full circle of exactly why I put this whole project together.
It is amazing how still unique and far ahead of its time your father's music is. It's not just the rock stuff, but also the classical stuff and the kind of near fusion stuff like that. Do you find it hard to find musicians that can approach it with a passion, as opposed to, like, I know your father had a hard time. He hated working with like the London Symphony Orchestra because they were just kind of like hired hands. And, you know, it was hard for him to find musicians who were into it as much as he was. Do you find that hard also?
It can be a challenge. You know, one of the most difficult things is that when you're a band leader and you're putting a project together that requires touring and being in small spaces like tour buses, you know, talent is one thing, but having the right attitude, that trumps talent. If you have the right attitude and you have the ability to learn and you have the desire to basically stay in your lane in terms of what's required for the music, that's way better than somebody that might be a virtuoso who's just constantly seeking to draw attention to themselves within the music. And that becomes very problematic if you're talking about music that really requires a team effort. And my dad's music's much more like classical music in that sense, because the instructions are on the page in the music. You're supposed to play it as the composer wanted it to be played. You're not supposed to change it and do all these things that you want to do with it. And that's what happens when you get certain personality types. And when my dad ran into that, he always said, window or aisle, how would you like to return home?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you are an incredible guitar player, just like your father, who I consider to be one of the most criminally overlooked guitar players in history. And you've worked with a ton of artists that just the variety is amazing. Everyone from Ozzy to Pat Boone to Deep Purple to Weird Al Yankovic to Winger to the Fat Boys, which I think is awesome. Of the people you've worked with, who was the most challenging or the most fun?
Well, the thing is, I've always been interested in all kinds of music, and I've had a chance to work with different people in different contexts. So in terms of playing with musicians, I never would have expected that I would be on stage with Chick Corea, but Chick Corea played with my band many times because we did a tour where my band was opening for Return to Forever, and he would come up on stage and play with us. He would come to the side of the stage, and like a puppy, he would look at us like, can I come out there? And so that was really fun because I really, growing up, was not like a big jazz guy. I was more of a rock guy, but his vocabulary in terms of what he did certainly when he played with us, expanded what I was having to do on the guitar in real time, like as far as improvisation. And I think sometimes it's different instruments that bring out a bigger change in your playing. So the same was true when I played with George Duke, who used to play in my dad's band. It really challenged me to play in different ways on the guitar. But on the opposite side of that, having worked with Edward Van Halen on the very first recording that I ever did when I was 12 years old, and then remaining friends with him over the years until there was this really interesting, fun experience where he came to one of my shows back in 2010, and we were playing the song St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast, which we actually are playing on this upcoming tour as well. But after the show, he came up, he said, what's that pancake song? What are you playing there? And I had to play this really difficult part and show it to him on the guitar. And he goes, I don't even understand how you're playing that. He goes, I could never play that. So in that moment, it was a total role reversal because me as a 12-year-old, I was saying, play Eruption, play Mean Street, and thinking I could never play that. So I had this complete oddball experience in that moment. It was like the Jedi mind trick or something. It was very strange. But, I've really had a chance to play with a lot of different people in different ways, either live or in the studio, and it's been good for me because I have a lot of different interests, so it's kept me busy.
And finally, what is a lesson that you've learned from your father? Maybe not necessarily something he tried to teach you, but something you've maybe realized as you've moved on in your life. What do you think is one of the most valuable lessons you took from him?
Well, the thing about what he did was it was really because he loved the creative journey, and he did what he did because he loved it. And if other people liked it, that was a bonus. So understanding that you could follow a passion and get something out of it, even if it's not related to a monetary reward, it's kind of really sets your mind at ease because you're able to understand what is the important element of it. And if you enjoy that process of constantly being a student of something and learning new things, then you can keep yourself entertained and occupied. And that's, I think, what I have learned from him is that I have a lot of different interests, and I am always interested in continuing to keep learning. And I never think of what I'm doing as, oh, I've mastered this. It's like, oh, there's still so much more to learn and do. And So I think that's been a valuable lesson because it's kept me focused on continuing to grow and learn things.
Dweezil Zappa, again, thank you very much for your time. And you can see the Apostrophe tour August 25th, Chevalier Theater in Medford. And we appreciate it, man. Good luck on the tour. Thank you very much.